The story I have for you today is sort of it could be embarrassing if it wasn't so funny, or just unusual. Basically, oh, by the way, the background in this particular one and in the last one is the OK Corral, the actual gunfight at the OK Corral, which is one of the things I'm enamored with, I guess you might say. And in old Tombstone, Arizona, went there for a film festival not far from there and got to do this, and it was really kind of cool. So anyway, the story I want to tell you today, it's like I said, it's kind of embarrassing, but it was early in my career, like my second job. So it was, I was like 20 years old, and it was 1973. So I guess I was, yeah. So anyway, 20 years old. So I had just gotten back from being fired from my job in Prescott, Arizona. And a couple of days later, I got this job at KVFM in the San Fernando Valley, which was in the Panorama Towers. And it used to be in the city of San Fernando. And the interesting thing was, originally, it was in the old thrifty drug building on the second floor. And as a kid, I lived right down the street from there on Chatsworth Drive. And we heard sirens, fire engines and stuff. And we raced up the street 2 or 3 blocks to get there. And I watched that building burn, and not knowing that KVFM was there and that years later I would be working at KVFM. So anyway, I got the job, and basically I was a studio engineer. And it was, I got to be an announcer a little bit later, but I was a studio engineer. And the thing about it was, we just played Spanish music for the first 3 hours. And all I had to do was segue Spanish music, just play the music and play the commercials, which I could not understand a little bit, but not much. And so there was no talking, no announcer talking or anything. They were in between what they were trying to figure out what to do with the radio station. So all I had to do was play Spanish records. And Spanish records at that time were pretty much like country music. They were all 2 minutes or less, or maybe 202, on 45 vinyl. So anyway, I had gone out the night before and with some friends, and we were on Van Nuys Boulevard, and we just having a good time. And some were drinking, I wasn't. I didn't really drink. And so we just had a good time. We were just out there. And I noticed that the time got away from us. It was like I had to be at the radio station at 5. It was like 3:30. We realized I needed to either go to work, but I needed to get some sleep. And I knew, well, that wasn't going to happen. So I just drove home to Silmar, took a shower, got changed clothes, and drove down to the radio station in Panorama City. Got there a little after 5 o'clock. Got set for my shift, pulled the music and everything. But I was dead tired. I mean, I was dead tired. I'd only been home from Arizona for a few days anyway. This was kind of one of the early days of working this job, and which paid me all of $1.60 an hour, by the way. And and I think I told you in the previous show, I was making $1.65 as a box boy at Country Cousins Market in Silmar just less than a year earlier. So I go into the radio station, and I mean, I am tired. I could barely keep my eyes open, and I'm playing the music and trying to kind of sort of catnap while the music's on. And behind me, there was a counter. And on that counter was a box, probably a little bit bigger than this, if you can see that. And it held 45s, a stack of 45s. So it was probably not that big. And I would lay my head back like this, because my head was just thumping. And I was so exhausted. I would lay my head back like this and just, but I'd be back there for like 20, 30 seconds, and I had to change the record. So I was doing this, and I said, okay, I got to do something. I got to close my eyes for a little bit more than 30 seconds at a time. It was killing me. So I went into the record room, a little small record room where all the albums and everything were. And sure enough, I found an album of Spanish music, Mexican music, that was all one side. There was one cut on one side. I said, oh, this would be a dream. It's got to be about 15 minutes long. So I went and I cleared my commercials ahead of time so I could play 15 minutes. I threw that on there and on the turntable and played it. And unbeknownst to me, it was kind of soft marimba music. it was just kind of mellow and just kind of, put you something you try to go to sleep by, right? So I'm playing that, and I look over at the record. I lift my head up, and I'd been asleep for maybe 10 minutes, and it was just great. I was catching up. I looked at the record, and it was about 5 minutes left in the record. I looked up at the clock, and it was 5 minutes to 7. I said, good, I got another 5 minutes. So I put my head back down, and I immediately looked up. I wanted to double check, and I heard no sound. And I looked at the clock, and it was 25 minutes after 7. I'd been asleep for 30 minutes, and 25 of that was nothing on the air, absolutely nothing. So I quickly, I freaked. I quickly grabbed that album, took it off, and it was going around click, 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 click. I grabbed the album, threw it aside, threw on one of the 45s, got that on there, grabbed my commercials, and I'm punching them in. I'm playing like 5-6 minutes at a time of commercials, making up this stuff. And the lights, we had lights in the studio because you don't want the phone ringing, so we had lights flashing off and on, and the lights are going crazy. All these lights for the phone, just going nuts because people were calling and wondering what the heck's happening. And I'm just making up these commercials. Finally got caught up. About 7:30, I decided, okay, the phones have calmed down, the music's back on, but one phone kept lighting up, so I answered it. And a guy with a thick Mexican, Mexican accent at the time said, can I play a request? And I said, no, I don't take requests. And I'm just playing what they tell me to play. He says, okay. He goes, oh, by the way, what happened to my radio a little while ago? And I said, what do you mean what happened to your radio? He goes, I was listening and it just went off. It stopped. And I said, oh, we just had some technical difficulties. And he goes, oh, technical difficulties. Everything's okay now? And I said, yeah, everything's fine. And he hung up and everything was fine. And I later learned that nobody, I stayed there about a year, and nobody ever knew except the listeners that the radio went off, but nobody at the radio station ever knew that this happened. I talked to the program director like the day I was leaving, and I told him, Steve, did you know about this? He goes, no, I don't listen to the radio station. And it was, so if anybody ever, and it was, I've fallen asleep on the air 3 times. Okay. That was one. The second time was at KRTN Raton. I'm sorry, no, it wasn't. It was KREL in Corona, which was another small radio station. I had to be at their weekends, and it was a gospel radio station most of the time. And they had me playing piggyback tapes. And I had just had oral surgery, and I had my wisdom teeth out 2 days earlier. And I stopped at the dentist on the way in to do my shift. And I told him, I said, I'm in great pain. The drugs you gave me aren't working. And so he said, well, I'll give you something else. But he said, wait till you get to where you're going. Don't drive. Okay. And I said, okay. So I took the medicine when I got there, and it knocked me out. And we were playing back-to-back piggyback gospel tapes for like 2 hours in that part of the day before we went back to music. And sure enough, I laid my head down when one of these gospel tapes was on. And about 10 minutes after the tape ran out, and it was going, this was reel-to-reel tape. When spinning around like this, I woke up and realized, oh crap, I did it again. And the third time I won't tell you about, but so if anybody ever tells you they fell asleep on the air and you think, how's that happen? It happens. It really does. Well, I hope you enjoyed this story, to my embarrassment, but it happened during my life on the radio. So, which still wasn't over yet. We've got a long way to go, hopefully. And we'll see you next time.